The winner of the 2024 Solar Builder Project of the Year under 100 kilowatt category, as voted on by the readers, is the Adventure Science Center in Nashville, Tennessee. This C&I rooftop installation combines renewable energy, education, and community impact. The project is estimated to save the Adventure Science Center close to $11,000 on their annual energy costs, while providing an educational feature for the center's 382,000 annual visitors, including more than 75,000 students from Tennessee's 73 school systems. Here to talk about the project is Miriam Scally, Executive Director at Everybody Solar, a company that helps nonprofit organizations install solar, and Morgan Renberg, VP of Exhibits and Experiences at the Adventure Science Center.
Solar Builders 2024 Project of the Year Awards are sponsored by Aurora Solar. Learn more at aurorasolar.com.
How did this project with the Adventure Science Center come about, and what was kind of the driving force behind the solar there?
Well, at the Science Center, we're always looking to kind of embody the future of technology, and certainly energy technology is a piece of that. At the same time, we are located in what's mostly a pretty aging building, and so we have quite high power usage, and we're trying to work to see how can we reduce our power consumption and kind of green the building. And it seemed like the combination of those two things could really be served by some solar panels on the roof. And so we were sort of chatting about this with some of our colleagues at other museums in Tennessee. And the folks in Chattanooga said they had just completed this great partnership with a group called Everybody Solar, and had a lot of success in putting solar panels on their roof through that project.
And Miriam, I'd like to hear a little bit how Everybody Solar works with different nonprofits like the Adventure Science Center to install solar. Can you tell me a little bit about that process and how the project was financed?
Everybody Solar was founded about 13 years ago by my brother with the idea that nonprofits struggled more than for-profit businesses in attaining solar. At the time, there were no tax credits available to nonprofits to go solar, and normally, as they should be, nonprofits are focused on their mission and mission-driven plans. And so encompassing and moving to solar is sometimes extra challenging for them. One of our niche areas, however, is working with science museums, and they have been one of our absolute favorite partners because there's an interesting addition to it, which is that they tend to incorporate an educational component into the solar installations. And so that's one of the driving forces behind why we continue to partner specifically with science museums, because it has that added benefit or bonus of having the educational piece. And in terms of the funding, we have long-term partnerships, and I've been blessed with some of those long-term partnerships with some foundations. And so our funding is actually usually a blend. And in this case, for the Adventure Science Center, we had a diverse blend of foundation grants, corporate sponsorships, and then generous contributions from individual donors. The collective effort always ends up working together to meet the financial requirements. And what's great about that is we're able to then also engage a broader community to support the mission of renewable energy education.
You mentioned that educational aspect. Could you explain sort of this hands-on nature of the project, and why was that such an important aspect for the Science Center, and how does that advance solar energy in the U.S.?
We find that visitors to the Science Center learn best when they're able to directly interact with what they're learning about. And so it's one thing to look out the window and see the solar panels. It's another to actually kind of go hands-on. And so we really kind of explored with this project, how could we allow visitors to explore what it means to generate power from the sun, and then what actually are solar panels. We all see them on the roofs of houses and buildings. We hear about them on TV, but most people have never really come up close to one of them. And so the exhibit aspect of this project had three parts to it. The first part was what we called the exploded solar panel, which was we took a solar panel and then made a model of individual layers of that panel that guests could raise and lower to see how the different layers would come together. And they could actually see what pieces make up one of these panels. The second was an interactive kiosk that not only recorded the real-time output of the solar panel, but also some various weather-related effects in the city. So we had like the temperature and the cloud cover and the amount of precipitation. And visitors could create their own graphs out of these to see which factors actually correlate with generating more or less power. So for example, a visitor would hopefully play with this and realize that temperature actually has a relatively low effect on the amount of power we're producing, but how cloudy it is outside has a high effect. And that kind of interactivity leads them to that understanding better than if we just wrote it on a sign. And then the third piece was a graphic that led you to resources from the Department of Energy that helped folks evaluate whether their home would be a good use case for solar power. So the idea was to sort of teach you what a solar panel is, how it works, and then for you to leave thinking about whether or not this could be a good addition to your house or your small business.
As Morgan has alluded to, the fact that really having hands-on experience allows people to engage in a different way. And our projects are across the United States. And what's interesting is that every single science museum we've worked with that has developed and deployed these solar installations and then also these monitoring systems or interactive exhibits, each and every one has created something very unique and different. And that really shows and showcases not only the creativity of the individual sites, but also it showcases the difference in the populations and what the needs are. And so that's one of the aspects that's really engaging and helpful, is that, you know, going to a science museum in Ithaca, New York, you'll get a different experience than you will going to Morgan's at Adventure Science Center versus going to Eugene Science Center out in Oregon, because each one of those is adapted to the populations themselves and sort of their understanding and that local language that needs to be utilized to really make it more engaging.
What would you say were some of the biggest challenges in getting this project built, and how did the project team overcome those?
Well, so there's a few different challenges that came about with this project, which are always fantastic ways to learn. And one of them was just a simple thing about site location. Adventure Science Center is on city-owned land, and it's also historically significant land. And so there's some careful coordination up front that needed to happen to secure city approvals. So long before this project became public knowledge, there was stuff happening behind the scenes between Morgan and his team, the installer and their team, as well as us trying to coordinate to ensure that all the pieces were met and the approvals were obtained. Once that happened, we did our fundraising phase, and we had a second delay with module shipment. We had a very generous donation that occurred, but as transit is transit and things happen along the way, there ended up being just some shipment delays that required the extension of equipment rentals, which obviously increases costs slightly along the way. And then the last one was an unexpected one. In the electrical studies that were done at the beginning of the project, there had been a mistake in the sizing of the transformer that would be needed to make the system compatible. And at the last minute, they determined that they really needed to upgrade a transformer to make everything work together. And so that final adjustment led to some additional hurdles to overcome. But everybody collaborated super well, and support was fantastic throughout. I think we spent a good 6 months working out some of those details just for the city permitting. But then after that, overall, I think we had from start to finish about 12 months once the project went live.
What kind of technical innovations were there for this project?
From my perspective, the only thing that was really out of the ordinary was the funding model that brought this to be. I'm not aware of any other groups that are working in this fashion to put solar power on community buildings like this. And it was certainly something that caught our eye as an organization that has our own fundraising needs for other projects, that there was a partner who was willing to come in and do all the work like Everybody Solar was just, that was the difference between us being able to do this project and not being able to do it.